Hello, I'm Joe Bevilacqua, the president of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Merrimack Valley Chamber Means Business. Everyone reads a newspaper. Everyone listens to the news. Everyone communicates with one another. How do you do it? How do you run a newspaper in today's day and age? Well, we have a very, very special guest. Let me tell you, we are so excited that Karen Andreas, the regional publisher of the North of Boston Media Group, which is the family of Eagle Tribune newspapers throughout the region, is with us. Karen, welcome. We look forward to hearing
Thank you, Joe.
about how do you run a newspaper today. Tell us about communication. Everyone needs communication today, and obviously the world is changing, and so we're excited. Tell us, first of all, what is North of Boston Media Group, and what papers do you actually cover?
Sure, North of Boston Media Group, really, we've coined that term for our papers here. We have 4 daily newspapers. The largest is the Eagle Tribune. We also have the Salem News, the Gloucester Daily Times, and the Daily News of Newburyport. And then we have our weekly newspapers, the Andover Townsman, the Haverhill Gazette, the Derry News up in Derry, New Hampshire, and the Carriagetown News.
But you also have magazines.
We do. We have lots of magazines. We have 7 magazines, soon to be 8. We have a family of community magazines, really lifestyle magazines in certain communities, such as Marblehead Magazine, Newburyport Magazine, Cape Ann Magazine, the Reddings, the Andovers, and then we have a weddings magazine. We also have North of Boston Business Magazine, and we are now starting a magazine in Windham, New Hampshire.
Great.
And that will come out in March. So
Fantastic.
We're really excited about our newest magazine
You know,
as well.
and I want to mention, I was very excited to see in the most recent edition of your North of Boston Business Magazine, you recognize the 25 best places to work, and I was very, very excited that the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce is one of the 25.
Well, it was a great idea by the editors, and we actually had people in the community vote. So it wasn't just the Eagle Tribune staff who decided. It was lots of voting from the community. So,
well, one of the things that I know, and I want to say, as you know, that we are an advertiser, and we think the Eagle Tribune advertising works. Communication is critical in today's day and age. Even though we all have the internet, I still believe people want to pick up a newspaper and read a newspaper. And I know I do. But I know that at the same time, though, for those that don't want to read the newspaper, they can read online now, can't they? Something you've initiated pretty effectively.
Absolutely. You know, we're in this age of 24/7 news, and we've really changed from a newspaper company to a multimedia company. And that is a buzzword, but it's really true that people want to be able to get their news whenever they want it and how they want it. So that means delivering it not only in print, which is really important. I'm a print person too. Yeah. I like to hold it, put it under my arm, read it, flip through the pages, circle things, rip them out, send people little notes. But also, you want to get it on your phone. If you're having lunch, you need to be able to check something quickly on your tablet. So your mobile devices are huge for us.
So all the news that's in the newspaper is also now available online 24/7 whenever anyone needs to read it.
That and more. All of the folks who subscribe to the print edition also get what we call total access. Right. So you also have access to our news online. And there's a lot there. There's photos and photo slideshows, multimedia presentations, videos, podcasts from sporting events. There's so much more online. And because the newspaper is limited in how many pages we have every day, we can put a lot more news online also. So there'll be other documents that are related to a particular story. There's a lot there.
A newspaper, I think, is very important to a community. And I call the Merrimack Valley a community.
Absolutely.
It's important because we get the news from you. We read about obituaries from you. We read about the weather. We read about sports. We read about family entertainment. Right. And, you know, one of the best things is the local news. What's happening in the local region? And that's been one of your priorities, hasn't it? To initiate the local aspect.
It's always the priority. Local news is our franchise. That's what we do. And that's what we do really well. And there are other media outlets out there that also do a good job. But with our newspapers, you know who's writing the news. You know that we're fair, that we have integrity, that we have the best ethics policies and hold ourselves to very high standards. And if we make a mistake, you can call me.
Right.
You can call Al White.
And we have.
And you have.
We have.
And we'll look into it and say, I'm really sorry, we got that wrong, and we'll fix it. Yeah. So you know that there are people at the other end of that phone or in the office whom you trust and can have a relationship with to do the right thing by the community.
One of the things that I really recognize, and I see it happen all the time, is how available you are. As the regional publisher, you're not hidden away somewhere. You've been a speaker at our Chamber of Women in Business program, you've been a speaker at other programs, you've been out in the community. I think that's critically important because that way you see for yourself what is really happening in the Merrimack Valley.
Well, I grew up in the newsroom. I started my career as a reporter. So I understand journalism at its core. I was a reporter and an editor for a very long time before I moved to the financial and business end of the business. So I'm still really aware of how the news is so important to what we do. It's the crux of what we do. And I understand how to report the news and write the news. So part of that, we have this saying we say, think like a reader. In everything that we do, think like a reader. If you're going to tell a story, what does the reader need to know? If you're going to present advertising packages, what do the businesses need and want? And it's not really up to me to decide all that. I need you to tell me. I need the business community to tell me. So in order for me to do that, I need to be out there and available and to try to be a good listener.
And I think that's critically important, as obviously all the employees of the Tribune need to be out as well. Tell me, we hear how much difficulty newspapers have in today's day and age. How is the Tribune able to keep going? Is it the fact that you now have all these opportunities, both online, magazines, newspapers? You cover literally the entire region.
We do, and the newspaper industry, like most businesses, went through a very tough time during the past years with the recession. I think one of the worst things we did was we just wrote about ourselves all the time and told everyone how difficult it was. So we gave ourselves our own black eye. But we've come through it really well here at North of Boston Media Group, and the reason is because we've always stuck to our belief in local news. You can't find what happened at the basketball game last night, and the local obituaries, and the police log, and the local advertising. That you know where to get that all in one place. And us branching out to other avenues with the magazines, with the mobile devices, et cetera, we've had to do that just as all businesses have come
evolved
to modern day and evolved.
Absolutely.
And that's been very important for us. Yeah. But we have a very strong company and a very strong brand.
So are there more changes going to take place with the Tribune? I know you probably can't tell us everything, but are there new things that you're thinking of right now that'll continue to enhance a reader's ability to get news from the Tribune?
Oh, I hope
Family?
So. Yes, absolutely. And again, a lot of that comes from the readers telling us what they want. So when someone tells us we need more business news, we really want more business news, and we have heard that. So we are, for example, enhancing our Sunday business package. And we had the Wall Street Journal was one of our syndicates who was giving us some news that we use, and they're no longer going to give us those stories anymore. They've discontinued that service. So we looked at those pages and said, okay, what's the best use for these pages? And we asked, and people want local business news. So now we're going to fill those pages with lots of great local business news and advertising.
I want to congratulate you for that, because I'm a true believer. I could find the Wall Street information anywhere, but it's the local news that I want to read about our members. We have 1,000 member companies in the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. I want to read about what they're doing, as well as other businesses.
Right.
I think that's important, because not only do you have the businesses, but you have the employees, you have the customers.
Right.
That way they'll know where to go.
And we can all learn from one another.
Absolutely.
I like to write what I call success stories. So yes, it's a feature story about a business, but as a business leader, I want to know what's unique about this business, what have been some of the challenges, how have you overcome them, how do you retain employees, what do you do for fun at work, how do you deal with regulations from the state, what are some of the tax issues you're facing, so that we can learn from one another. Those are the best type of business stories.
And I think that's important because the homeowner, the residents, they need to know where to go for their education loan, for their schooling, for their automobile. Where do you get financing? Where do I buy my dress, my suit, that type of thing? And that's what they're going to gather, I think, by having this local business news. So I think that's a tremendous feature. And I want to congratulate you for that because you're listening. You're listening to what people are saying. The Tribune, I think, has come a great way in terms of understanding the importance of being a local regional newspaper. And the fact that you cover all our communities is something that I think is very important because, as we've said in the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, our membership, as you know, runs from the Lawrence area all the way through Greater Haverhill, Greater Newburyport, Salisbury, all that region. We're really one economic community. And I think that's very, very important to showcase that opportunity for businesses and for residents to be as part of one entity. And I think that's an important aspect of what the Tribune does.
Thank you. Yes.
In terms of the magazines, tell us the thought behind the magazines. The magazines obviously have a number of local or regional attributes, but at the same time, you also have some very focused articles, like, for example, recognizing the best places to work, recognizing wedding opportunities, recognizing some of the other things. Is that the concept behind it, letting people know that you can reach targeted issues?
Absolutely. These are really great targeted demographics for an advertiser and for readers. So what we did is, again, we listened to the community. We knew, for example, that our friends in Reading and North Reading wanted a piece like this. So we put our best people out there. Bob McDonald lives in one of the communities and went out and talked to the advertisers and came back and said, they really do want this. This is going to work for them and for us. So we consider it a partnership.
So once again, working to address the needs of the readers and of the community.
Absolutely.
For example, as we talked about the new North of Boston Business Magazine, again, this is, I think, very important. There were some tremendous articles in this magazine. I know this is going to be repeated over and over again. And then, for example, whether you be in Newburyport, you've got the Newburyport magazine, which I think is important. The Andovers, because the Andovers obviously that regional approach, but also targeting to local communities.
The business magazine for me is, I love them all, but it's one of my favorites because every time I pick it up and read it, I learn something.
Right.
And that's what I like about these magazines. I want to read stories and then turn to someone and say, hey, did you read that, or did you see what this person is doing? So I'm always finding interesting news in there from local people.
And this is what I enjoyed about reading this particular edition, was that we're talking about retirement on one page, we're talking about human resource issues on another page. This is information that businesses, local businesses, can use.
Well, again,
small and mid-sized companies.
There's lots of
Job Outlook.
There are other wonderful business publications out there, but what's different about this one is it's from our region.
Right.
It's,
Which is
it's
critical.
our business leaders speaking to one another.
And Karen, we're going to take a break in a moment, but that's why we wanted to come and interview you, because we wanted the listening and the viewing audience to recognize the regional aspect, but with the local input.
The local input
That's the
is
key. That's
right.
the key, and we're so excited that you're continuing that focus.
Thanks.
So this is Joe Bevilacqua. This has been another edition of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, and please stay tuned for our next speakers.
Hello everyone, I am Michael Bevilacqua, the Assistant Vice President at the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce, and we welcome you back to the Merrimack Valley Chamber Means Business program. We're here on location at the Eagle Tribune newsroom right here in North Andover. We welcome back Karen Andreas.
Thank you.
And we have a very special guest. As you can see, people in the back working hard at work today. We pulled someone off that floor right now. We have Bill Burt, who's the Executive Sports Editor for the Eagle Tribune. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. Impressive show. I like the program.
Yeah, well, Joe, I know you had a great talk with Karen. I want to talk to you real quick right now. Now, I know the Eagle Tribune covers, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Patriots, the Red Sox, but you also cover some local news.
Yeah, our focus is local, and it's changed. When I took over in the sports department here in '99, we had guys that usually that covered pro sports and also local. That's changed. We're now locally based, you know, but what we do is, and the Super Bowl is a good example, if people are talking about it at the cooler, it's local. And, you know, it's a little easier with the football, with pro football. It's once a week. But as you notice, we're at the Super Bowl. We worked in local angles almost every day. Back here, some of the biggest stories we did were local Super Bowl stories, whether it's fan excitement, whether it's business people benefiting from the Super Bowl. Our bread and butter is local, it's sports. This is, and as we speak right now, despite the snow, it is the best time of the year. We got the end of, you know, you had a great football season. Yep. You have the winter sports season, which for us is probably the most exciting time because it's the state tournaments. Don't really have that in football as much. You got packed gymnasiums, packed ice arenas. This is when the fans, the local fans, come out and they depend on us. Yeah. And it's, you know, all of our papers all have a similar attitude, and our photos really, honestly, one of our strengths is photography, and we capture really what I think this time of year is about. And then it's nice, we got the Bruins, they practice here in Wilmington. If there's a story, we can go to Wilmington one morning, go to a practice. Don't really go to the games as much. Again, our forte, and you know, I could go to Dave Dyer, our wrestling writer, National Writer of the Year for Wrestling Magazine. No, and this area here for high school wrestling is probably the best in the Northeast. It's right here in the Merrimack Valley in southern New Hampshire. So we got a lot going for us. Hector Longo, Mike Muldoon, Chris Smith, and Dave Willis, of course. So we're really, this is like troops, and it's every day. I send emails out to the guys, where are we going? Here's where we're going. This is the stories we're looking for. And every day we're looking for that one story that grabs the readers, sort of like the front, yep, sort of like the magazines, something that pulls you in, and then we throw all the other.
And I will say, along with running the sports department here, Bill is he is one of the best sources for community journalism that we have, because he is out in the community. He knows everyone knows him, so he's not only looking for sports stories, he's looking for local news stories as well. And you'll see him write for page 1 of the Eagle Tribune all the time, as well as our magazines.
Yes.
So we appreciate that about him so much, that he's not just sports focused, he really is community focused.
Well, I've seen Bill at some of the local charity events, and he's great for the community, so we
Yes.
appreciate that. And the local news really pulls into what your plan here is, to the Eagle Tribune and all the magazines, to bring that local news to everyone so they can read what's going on. I went to Merrimack College and Haverhill High School, and I can read what's going on with those sports right in the paper. And you talk about the pictures, I mean, right there on the front of the paper, that's a great picture of what's going on in your community.
Right.
Something that's not local is the Super Bowl. One of my favorite things about the Tribune is you always have those great pull-out sections. How do you plan those pull-outs? Are they all around this, you know, if they're in the Super Bowl? Or?
Well, I will say it starts with our publisher, and yes, we think ahead, and you know, the business has changed a little. We as journalists have to keep an eye on what is going to keep us in business and to thrive, not just survive, because we don't just want to barely make it. And that's thinking ahead, looking at potential sections where we can not only put out a great section, which you just said, but if you look inside, it's filled with ads. And that's really, I'm not saying that's our focus here in the newsroom, but it's something we do look at. And
Sure.
that starts at the top. And I will say the special sections are fun. We got great, our layout, our paginators are as good as it gets. You know, I will say proudly, pat ourselves on the back. We the NAPNI Awards for the New England Newspaper Awards. You know, I think we have a couple of special sections from a couple of papers that are going to win awards. I don't think people are able to do it in the amount of time we do it. I mean,
We do it really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The turnover is unbelievable.
So, you know, of course, there's the AFC Championship game, and we win. So right away that day, we're all texting each other from home as we're eating our chicken wings and celebrating, and saying, okay, we've got to get on this first thing. And there's a lot to plan, because
sure, yeah.
you're planning the advertising, you're planning the content, you're planning the photos.
And on top of that,
you have to
your
print
your regular daily journal.
Absolutely.
So.
Oh yeah, and by the
Something
way,
like that,
we need to put out a newspaper. Yeah.
Well, the one thing, it's an interesting story about the special section we did before the Super Bowl. It's the book on Belichick. And that was all, we were sitting there talking about a potential, rather than just stories, let's do something a little different. And the idea came from, we had a great photo taken by Mary Schwamm, and it's the back of Belichick in a hoodie.
On my coffee table at home.
And everyone knows who that is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you live in Alaska, you know that's Belichick.
Yeah, looking at the guy's back in a hoodie, you know who it is. That is such a good photo.
That was our photo. We took it. And so then everything developed off of that. Belichick went to Phillips Andover. We looked up facts about Belichick. And, you know, I had a different look. I've covered him for 15 years. He's done some charity events. I know him probably better than most. Oh, wow. So that's how a section that's a little different. You know, the Globe and Herald did theirs. They didn't do anything like that. No. And it was ours. And guess what? Advertisers loved it. Yeah. And it was different. So.
And again, you tied in that local news to it as well.
Absolutely. And that's what we have to do. Honestly, it's local. That's our word here. Everything is based off that.
Yeah, I know. I have those Eagle Tribune, "Go Patriots" signs on my refrigerator.
Oh, good.
From a few years back and this year.
Yeah, they're fun.
So it was always fun. I tried to get Joe, you saw earlier, to send me the Super Bowl to cover it, but I couldn't pull that off. But I know Bill was there, and you said you covered some local stories about some of the fans there. Karen, what's your how do you go about that?
Well, we reach out to people, again, asking the community. We'll put notes in the paper and online, who's going. Yep. Please tell us your stories. So again, this is your newspaper, not ours. We need you to tell us what you want in the paper. So, and people were happy to do so.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
So, you know, Bill got a lot of great stories that way, but also his connections in the community and the reporters and editors knowing people who are going and such. So we were able to work that out. And the photography, as Bill said, the photography we had was outstanding.
Definitely.
The videos we had great videos. Bill and Hector did a lot of podcasts and videos from the event. Mary Schwamm has a fabulous video. If you haven't seen it, you have to go to the Eagle Tribune website and check it out. It's called 5'4".
Okay.
And she's my size. She's 5'4", and she's walking through media day, and you know she's this smaller woman with all these huge guys, and it's funny, but it's informative, and it's a great look. I really encourage you to take a look at it.
She saw a lot of guys' shoes, which is interesting. Great photos of what guys were wearing, and it was different. Yeah. You know, that's the one thing, and that comes from Karen as well. We don't just show up and cover because it's not worth it. You know, I will say I was with an editor of a paper in Boston. They had 23 people there. We had 3. But I'll tell you what, I'll put what we did up with anybody.
And Bill, we're about to wrap up this segment, but one thing I want to say is for those who couldn't make the Super Bowl in this area, you were able to bring them with you, which is perfect. So make sure after this episode's over to check out at home that Eagle Tribune video and all those podcasts as well. But Bill, I appreciate you joining us. Karen, I appreciate you joining us again.
Thank you, Mike.
This is another segment for the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Means Business Program, and Karen and Joe are going to be right back with you. Thank you.
Karen, this has been a tremendous program. I'm just sorry we ran out of time. It's so informative. We're so excited about being here with you and learning about not only the Eagle Tribune, but also the magazines and the new approach that's coming up that'll continue.
Well,
the local
come back
focus.
Anytime.
We want to come back, and we look forward to coming back again.
Thank
you, and wish you all a great success.
We can take you on a tour of the press room sometime.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be fun.
This is Joe Bevilacqua. This has been another edition of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Means Business Program. Please stay tuned for our next edition. Thank you for watching.